But we've got the New York Giants that are on Hard Knocks.
Wasn't playing either.
So they've got damn. So they've got the Giants being featured there, and there's all sorts of clips that are coming out. This first one we're going to hear, and this clip that we'll listen to right now, this is Joe Shane defending the decision to keep Daniel Jones. And as he points out, offensive line has been an issue for the Giants. It's been an issue especially last year with all the injuries they had. And so he kind of used that to state his case for why they continue on with Daniel Jones as their quarterback.
We're going to draft well. We're going to sign good guys.
Yep.
We got to win.
Yeah.
The reality is facts.
Yeah.
3 serious injuries in 2 years.
Yeah.
We need to protect ourselves. He didn't have much of a chance this year. That's legit.
Yeah.
Like your off-season, the 4 guys, your core guys that were going to play together played less than 60 snaps together.
Yep.
We have Miami. We got 3 practice squad guys playing for us.
Yeah.
Like nobody. Like you could have Pat Mahomes and he can't win behind that. I'm not giving up on. He's under contract for 3 more years. Just protecting ourselves because best predictor of the future is the past.
If they were really interested in protecting themselves on the offensive line, why'd they take Malik Neighbors with the first pick of the draft? I'm just like, you know what I mean? Like, what do we? Like, if that's what your concern was, I mean, even the Jets. Like, as much as we talk about how dysfunctional the Jets are, what did they do?
Yeah.
Olu. Like they drafted your guy at Penn. Yeah,
yes, they did.
Drafted your guy to Penn State. Like that was like, all right, we want to keep our quarterback healthy. We'll go draft an offensive lineman. He was there. They could have had him. They went Malik Neighbors.
This is a hard one because Malik Neighbors he's one of those guys. He's a guy. I mean, there were a couple guys in this draft. Obviously, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the guy of guys in this draft. And in fact, I think he's generational. I think he's going to have one of those careers where, I mean, they might create their own legacy of big-time receivers, that go to Arizona. He very much has that in him to be the next guy after, Larry Fitzgerald. That's how highly I think of him. Malik Neighbors is definitely in the category of will be elite in the league. And so that's a hard one. And I will say this, and living in sensibility of we couldn't protect our quarterback, and if you are indeed using that as your logic and your reasoning as to why Daniel Jones has not had success, then it's a no-brainer. You take the best offensive lineman that you can get. You get the best offensive lineman in free agency. You get the best offensive lineman that you can draft. That is 100% an easy answer to the problem, Jonas, to answer your question. But Malik Neighbors is one of those types of talents that if the circumstances work out the way that they're supposed to work out, if they can protect Daniel Jones the way they need to and give him some time to operate, if you have some balance in your offense, it doesn't help that you got rid of Saquon Barkley. I forget who they bring in. I don't know who they brought in to replace that production, but probably not going to be as good a player replacing that production from your backfield. So he's going to have a lot of pressure on him to deliver the goods as a passer. He has yet to do so. I think we've seen enough of a body of work of him. They say that we haven't. They say he hasn't played as much, or the people around him haven't played as much as they needed to for you to see what type of player he really is. I think we know what you're going to get from Daniel Jones as a playmaker for your team, at least with the New York Giants. And that's been a lot of different head coaches, but still, I don't look at Daniel Jones like he's going to be a world beater all of a sudden this year coming into the season. So for those to be the sentiments of the people internally, it just makes you wonder, like, are they playing up to the camera, or are they being real? And if they're being real, do you have to then think, well, are these guys a little delusional in what it is that they're expecting for Daniel Jones and the rest of this outfit?
So,
it doesn't sound realistic to me.
I remember back when in the draft, it was probably 3 years ago at this point, but it was the Bengals decision. They were sitting at 4, I believe, 4 or 5. I think they were sitting at 5 rather. And they decided, coming off the injury to Joe Burrow, they drafted a wide receiver in Jamar Chase and passed on Penei Sewell, who ended up going to the Lions at 6. That one has worked out well for everybody involved.
Well,
that's like,
he continues to get hit,
and that's the other thing.
He continues to get hurt,
right? And
you don't see that happening to Jared Goff. In fact, Penei Sewell is one of the stalwarts of that team.
Yes.
So I wouldn't say that it. Listen, Jamar Chase is the same thing I just said about Malik Neighbors, right? He's just one of those guys. You can't deny the talent that guy brings to the table. So if you take him, you've taken a talent, and that talent can be very, very useful and productive for your team. But that doesn't mean that was the right move or the perfect move for your team to make, being in the position that it's in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of seemingly has been the undoing of the Cincinnati Bengals, is the health of Joe Burrow. And I think that injury came off of contact, correct?
Yes. His knee got folded in half. That's one of the worst knee injuries.
Also his hand, though, too, right? Then he hit his hand or his elbow or something like that.
Yeah, he's never – I think he had also like appendicitis he's never really had like a training camp. There's always been an issue with Joe Burrow.
Appendicitis isn't from protection in the pocket, but unless he got hit.
Let's just blame him anyways. We'll blame that on him too.
Maybe appendicitis from getting hit too much. I don't know.
Yeah, fair point.
Maybe they just kept bruising his appendix.
I'll tell you this right now. If Anthony Munoz was still there, that wouldn't happen. He would have gotten appendicitis.
They might run over Anthony Munoz, though. He might be a little bit light for this day and age.
I don't know. I'm not messing with Anthony Munoz.
Nah, I'm not either. In fact, he's a great man, by the way. I'm going to take that back. That was cap.
That
was cap. Anthony Munoz was a bad man.
One of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
But so you've got that situation with Daniel Jones and sort of, and it really does feel like they chose. Like they could have done a deal with Saquon. And look, Joe Shane is the same general manager who last year, when they announced the signing of Daniel Jones before last season and the extension, he said, had he known what he knows now, they would have picked up the 5th-year option, which was basically admitting we didn't think it was going to work out and he was going to have as strong of a year as he did. So now we're having to pay a premium because we screwed that up. Like that's basically what he was saying. So you've got all that in the backdrop of going into this season, and Saquon Barkley is now in Philadelphia. And so being featured in this Hard Knocks episode is Joe Shane breaking down and the Giants breaking down why they don't see that it's worth it for them to pay Saquon Barkley the money that he's looking for going last offseason. So he ends up in Philadelphia. So A.J. Brown saw the video, took to social media and said, the Saquon video fired me up and it wasn't even about me. I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure you get yours, fam. Talking about Saquon Barkley. Yeah. And I'm telling you right now, and we've talked about this a little bit throughout the course of the offseason, their decision to not pay Saquon Barkley and letting him go to Philadelphia is going to haunt them. Like the Eagles and Nick Sirianni feel like the team in the franchise that would absolutely get a little bit petty on behalf of their player. And when he sees the Giants, they're going to do everything in their power to make sure that he gets every opportunity to shove it back in their face. Like that decision they made cost them. And I think that's why Giants fans are so upset about it and why Saquon Barkley has responded to some of the heat from Giants fans, because that's all misdirected anger. They're pissed at the organization, not at Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, but they need to stop doing that. Fans need to stop doing that. Like, stop lashing out at players, especially in these cases. Like, there's some instances where there's legitimacy in feeling the way that you feel or you felt, but this isn't one of them. Like, why would you attack Saquon Barkley for going to a place where he's wanted? He wanted to stay in New York. He did, if you guys remember, he did the whole, I'm going to come to camp. Like, I rethought it. Like, I want to be a good teammate to my team, this, that, and the other. I'm going to play this out. Whatever happens, happens. But I do want to be a New York Giant. I want to stay here. I don't want no issues. So I'm coming in. I'm coming in. And he did. And he played well. And then you don't want to pay him again. Like, you can't, as New York Giants fans, wish ill will upon Saquon Barkley for going to a divisional opponent. You can't wish ill will upon him for not being a New York Giant anymore. He wanted to be a Giant. He wanted to be a Giant. He wanted to represent your team, your city, your fan base. He wanted to, and they didn't want him back. It's so funny. You just never I mean, I guess you kind of heard it in Washington, but not very much, not really. Like, you don't really hear fans really, or the media really just go in on decision makers. Like, you just never hear it. And to me, I just think that it's wild. In this situation here, there's no reason to direct any type of ill will towards Saquon. And if I am a Philadelphia Eagles player, if I'm a fan, if I'm a coach, if I'm whoever, a teammate, yeah, I'm a rally around that, because he's a good dude. He's a genuinely good dude. And by the way, he's from PA, and he's from that side of PA. So to that point, y'all sent him home. Y'all sent him home. So it is what it is. But they definitely are going to have to deal with a healthy dose of Saquon Barkley every single time they play them.
One of the clips I saw was they were having discussions, like it was Joe Shane and the rest of the front office, and they were talking about, his age and why they don't want to pay him. And then they're going around the room. And there was one guy that was in the room that was like, are we sure nobody's going to pay him? Like, based on, and they just kept pointing out, there's his age, and there's a lot of other backs on the market, and there's, does it make sense? And like, just basically finding every reason not to pay him, like every reason not to give him the contract he wants. And then he ends up with the Eagles. And I just look at it and I go, he wanted to be there, as you pointed out. He went above and beyond to try and stay there. Yes, he had the injury issues, but that hasn't been as much of the case the past couple of years. And instead, when we talked about it at the time, it would have made more sense to give him the contract extension and franchise tag Daniel Jones. They didn't go that route. And so here we are 2 years later. He ends up in Philadelphia. He's with a division rival.
That's what they got the problem with, because there's two teams that are better than the Giants in the NFC East right now. And you could say possibly all three outside of them. But for certain that it's Dallas, and for certain it's the Eagles.
Yes.
Right? So you really only have a problem because you know how good Saquon is. And it was okay, like, we're not going to pay him, until he went to the Eagles. And now you know how much better the Eagles will be having that type of talent in their backfield.
100%.
That's the only thing you have a problem with. And say you have a problem with letting him go to Philly versus it being anything else, because the bottom line is, if he goes somewhere like Boobie went to Carolina. Miles Sanders went to Carolina.
What up, Boobie?
You don't have any problem with him. If you're an Eagles fan, you don't have beef with him. In fact, you feel bad for him. Not only do you not have beef, but you're like, man, we had a really, really nice running game going with him, and we probably should have took care of him, and we let him go. Like, that sucks, because he's in Carolina. Had he went to Dallas, then we'd be having the same conversation. Like, how y'all going to let him go to Dallas? What y'all doing that for? Boobie, you stink. You suck. Like, we hate you. Burn your jersey. Like, all that stuff, right? Because he can, it's okay if they can't hurt you. But if we let you go because we didn't value you, and then you go to somebody who can directly, where he can hurt you 2 times a year, now you got an issue with it.
DeAndre Swift is in Chicago. You didn't hear anything about it.
Nope.
Like, there wasn't like, from Philly's standpoint, you didn't hear anything. They were just like, yeah, whatever. Whatever. He moved on. But Saquon left, went to a rival. Now he's going to see him week 7. They go to the Giants. The Eagles. do week
Saquon's
7.
coming. Saquon's coming. That's what's going to happen.
I'm telling you, Sirianni is petty. He's got a red ass. They're going to have something dialed up for that game. I'm telling you. Like, there's going to be – I can't wait to see what the betting lines are like. Just prop bets on only Saquon Barkley for that game. That's going to be the move. So it'll be fun to watch that play out. Again, week 7, and then they close up the season. Week 18 is the Eagles-Giants in Philly. So who knows? By that point – the Giants won't be playing for anything, and Philly will be resting their starters for a playoff game. So that's usually how that's going to go.
And they still going to play Saquon so he can get him 100, get him 200 yards in a game, get him a single game rushing record against the Giants.